Hi, this is Robert Kiyosaki, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. This is the most important thing you can listen to today.
Here's the one.
I have a dream.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I could do this all day.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.
Cinderella story out of nowhere.
It's in the hole. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Capital Hacking begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the big show. Josh McCown here, John Edwin. Take it over, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Well, we had Michael Scarano on our show. Dr. Michael Scarano. The guy's amazing. Coach Doc. So when you hear a story, it's really an amazing story of, a lot of adversity, both at home and with learning disabilities. But then he actually doesn't end up with one doctorate, but two. He first became a chiropractor, and then he became a medical doctor. And it's a fascinating story. He'll be giving a TED Talk in a couple months, and definitely worth, because everyone on some level deals with shame and guilt. And I think he articulates that very well.
He does. And his talk for TED Talk will be Toxic Perseverance, which is a pretty compelling title.
Yeah, love it. Let's go.
John Edwin, this is a fun day today. We get to have Michael Scarano, and I'm excited that he's here with us.
Yeah, Michael and I have become good friends over the last few months, and we get to see each other a lot, which is so much fun. Actually, just got a chance to have dinner with him this past Wednesday, and he's getting ready for a big TED Talk in a couple months. And I said, man, you should come on, and we'll talk a little bit about some really fun topics. So without further ado, Michael, can you just give us a little background, where you came from, where you are today, and what you're up to?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. This is a real shock to be here so quickly with you guys. Basically grew up in upstate New York in the lower Hudson Valley near the city. One brother. Parents married all their lives until my dad passed. Being a kid of the 70s and 80s, grew up with some unresolved trauma. I was an undiagnosed ADHD kid, had a couple learning disabilities, really didn't find school all that fun, but I got into sports, I got into theater. I found ways to navigate through my challenges. So one of the big trauma things that I had to deal with was the unfortunate tough relationship I had with my dad. Rest in peace. I made my peace with him. He literally died in my hands back in June of 17. And a lot went away with that. But, one of the things when you're a kid, and I've tried so hard as a dad of 3 amazing people, is to try to maintain positivity. We tease each other, but you got to be careful with that, because I was unmercifully teased. In fact, Dad put me down a lot. I was not the highest achieving kid in school. My older brother was perfect, and I still call him the king. But speaking of that, one of the big things that rocked me, we were at this Academic Achievement Awards dinner for my brother, of course, who was then a senior in high school, and I was 3 years younger. I was a freshman. I had to go to this event and get dressed up, which I hated. And my brother, the award comes for my brother, whatever it was. And the award goes to John Scarano, and everybody's clapping. My dad and I are sitting next to each other, and he looks down at me and he goes, I guess this is the last academic awards we'll ever be at, huh? So that kind of stuff sticks with you. When you're getting that kind of ragging at home, believe me, I got it from every single teacher except one. And I'm going to give her a shout out. Her name is Gloria D'Agostino, one of the most amazing teachers I ever had. She was my high school chemistry teacher. She believed in all of her students. And part of her belief in me really gave me the courage to pursue academics. I struggled like the Dickens, man. School was hard. And when I was a freshman at my local community college, I was taking a very tough course with a high school friend of my father's. And he took a special interest in me, and he noticed things about my test results and how I learned. And he said, you might have a learning disability. Why don't you get it checked out? So I did, and, off the charts. 2 learning disabilities, ADHD. Great. Now I've got this diagnosis, what's basically akin to cancer. Great. Now I know why I can't learn. How the heck am I going to start learning how to learn? I've gone through my whole life and never learned how to learn. So now I'm in college and I want to be a doctor, a therapist. And there was something driving me. I felt that I was an intelligent kid, but one of my toxic traits that I picked up was proving people wrong. When someone said I couldn't, I gave the middle finger to them and I said, I'm going to do it. And the one thing I was told my entire life was, I can't do school. But I had a burning desire to be a doctor because as a kid, I was in trouble a lot. I think the first words I learned when I was a baby was, I'm sorry. And I was always apologizing, and I needed forgiveness. So I have a heart for people that make mistakes. And I wanted to be that guy who could take a person and in a setting and say, hey, I can help you. I can help you work through whatever your challenge is. And that's where I sort of got my fuel. Shortening the story, I somehow managed to get through undergraduate school. I went to 5 different undergraduate colleges, went to chiropractic college. I had terrible grades. Back then, to get into chiropractic college, you needed a pulse. But the admissions director said, if you get B's in organic chemistry, I'll let you in. And I did. I got an A in my first semester of organic chemistry and a B+ in my second semester, and I got admitted. I graduated. I was very frustrated with my career there. Fun fact, not so fun for my ex-wife, but I did a manipulation on her lower back when I was a 5th semester student. It's a 10-semester program. And I herniated her disc and she couldn't walk for 2 weeks. God. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm thinking, I don't think I want to be a chiropractor anymore. Not trashing the chiropractic profession. I was a student. I did it on a bench. It was, like a park bench. It was stupid. But regardless, I then was like, if I can get through chiropractic. Say again. It's crazy, right?
Oh my God.
I mean, it was so bad, but we were running a camp on Martha's Vineyard, and she got onto the beach. She was a lifeguard, got onto the beach. I had to lay down flat on the sand, and a bunch of guys rolled her over onto my back. So now she's on my back, and I had to piggyback her to the car and get her to the emergency room. It was really bad, man. She doesn't hold it against me. Dude. What's that?
What were the long-term impacts? That's the stuff that scares me about chiropractic.
Yeah, you know what? She did okay, and I don't see her terribly much, but when I do see her, she doesn't seem to have back problems. But, I don't know. Maybe in some way it fixed her. I don't know. Anyway, so I wanted to go to medical school, and I found one medical school that fit their mission statement fit my personality. And I applied to it. And through a series of events, I got in. But how did I get the interview? Not being a good student. The hardest part of medical school is getting in. Well, during my tenure as a chiropractor, for the 4 short years that I worked, I met a wonderful anesthesiologist who ran the pain center in the town that I worked in. And I treated a patient of his that he sent to me. And the guy crawled in my office, and 2 hours later was doing jumping jacks. And I got a call from this anesthesiologist saying, how the heck did you do that? I've got to meet you. And it turned into a beautiful friendship between this gentleman's name is Lowell Garner. He and I were thick as thieves, and he spearheaded the pursuit of having me be credentialed at the local hospital. And it worked. I got written up in the American Chiropractic Association, local papers, the whole thing. But I never really felt that was an honor. I was missing this satisfaction. I had a lot of self-doubt going through school, being in, kind of a rough upbringing. And I just, anytime I had an accomplishment, I would blow it off and just say, well, anybody can do this. Anybody can. There's nothing special about me. I'm jumping ahead, but even in a recent, very difficult eulogy that I gave in January, I made a statement that if I am involved in helping someone and they give me credit, it makes me very uncomfortable. I don't do well with receiving gratitude. And I use my children as the example. And I said in the eulogy, I go, listen, the best example I can give you is I still don't know who my children's father is. Now that's supposed to be funny, but when you think about that, it's not funny because our brains, right? They hear our negative self-talk. And if you keep doing that, you can't get out of that never-ending cycle of toxic perseverance because I'm succeeding, I'm moving forward, I'm breaking barriers, I'm working through my learning differences, but I'm not complacent, I'm not happy, I'm not experiencing joy. I'm just kind of going through life. Even to the point where I'm now not taking credit for my children's successes. They are 3 of the most amazing human beings I know. And I have always said until very recently, they are amazing human beings in spite of their father. And I say they are amazing human beings in part because of their father. Just making that verbal and mental shift is so freeing to be able to accept, oh my gosh, Michael, you're doing something right here. This is good stuff. Enjoy your children. Have that gratitude. Be vulnerable. Accept your gifts. So I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
I like that.
So I went through my medical career. I struggled all the way through school. I failed my medical boards 5 times. Wow. So I ended up developing this insane amount of shame. I had a lot of shame around my successes. I couldn't tell people. It was paralyzing, but I still persevered. But I had all of these toxic self-talk things going on and never could receive joy. I applied to 1 medical school and I got in. Ask a typical medical student how hard it is to get into medical school. And I was a terrible student relative compared to other medical students. I just struggle with standardized tests. I don't struggle with learning, but I struggled with testing, and it was a real big thing for me. Through a series of events, I ended up getting out of medicine in 2017, and still, by the way, had yet to identify this, what I'm calling toxic perseverance. I kind of, my business partner that I worked with, he passed away. My father passed away. The divorce was finalized, but I was still struggling with, working with my kids. And I was in a relationship with a very nice lady that I wasn't happy in. And I wasn't happy not because of her, but because I had toxic perseverance. I was not able to exercise gratitude, be vulnerable. I was hiding under the veil of shame, guilt, and a ton of fear. So I invest in a couple of properties. I start to play Texas No Limit poker. I got pretty good, actually. Won a couple of big tournaments and was feeling my life kind of slipping away, meaning I wasn't living a life of purpose. There was always a purpose going through life. And especially we as men, we need absolute purpose. And typically for men, it's around career, status, finances. Like we provide, we want to go full gear, man. We're gonna go abundance. We're gonna kick life's butt. We're gonna live an epic life. That wasn't my mindset. My mindset was, how can I make it to the next day, the next week? I was a supportive dad. I coached youth sports for 28 years. I was involved, but I was living a toxic, persevering lifestyle. It was keeping me down. I wasn't experiencing joy at all. So I go through these years and really just honestly unsettled. And unfortunately, in January of this year, my closest, most dearest friend of 44 years shot himself. And I cannot tell you guys how much that something happened chemically in my brain. It was devastating. And I've been around a lot of death. I've lost a lot of relatives. I lost a friend in high school to a car accident. I lost my dad. This was beyond describable. In my eulogy, I said, something has profoundly changed in me, and I absolutely need to live a life of purpose. I just don't know what it is. I thought about, maybe I could go back and become a psychiatrist. Would take too long. Maybe I could become a social worker. That would take too long. Well, maybe I could become a mindset coach. Maybe I could get into leadership training, team building, stuff that I was comfortable with. But I still had the toxic perseverance. I went into this with, I can help people, not I'm the guy to help people. And that it's a nuance, but it's a huge difference. So now I'm in this role in my little small business startup of working with a signature client right now, the MGM casinos here in the DC area. They have a large casino here, and it's their largest poker room of all of their properties. I believe they have 9 poker rooms in various around the country, and this is their largest one. And I'm working with the managers there, working on my philosophy of know thyself, know your audience. So I'm working with these men and a few women on leadership, on how to create a positive communication flow through, team building, things of that nature. But still, this toxic perseverance, which I identified very recently, I'm like, how can I move off of this? I get into the MGM. I just started doing this. There have been coaches out there for 30 years that probably couldn't get in, but somehow I made it in there. Michael, you have got to get a hold of this. So I meet the GoBundance guys, this beautiful man here, John, and what a wonderful guy. He's a positive guy. He's measured. He's patient with me. When we were at Renault during our golf tournament, which we won, just I need to get that. And we never got paid, by the way. I met up, John was in the foursome ahead of me, and golf was slow that day. And so our foursome kept catching up to his. And I was really struggling with being a part of a group of guys that are high achievers, that are also really nice and They care for the betterment of their brothers within the group. And that, quite frankly, that was intimidating for me. So I shared with John, John, I'm not feeling like I can contribute. I don't think I'm ready for you guys. I'm starting so from behind the 8 ball. How can I sell to you guys that I'm worthy when I don't think I am? So it was an epic time at your place, Josh. The Renault's beautiful. I had a great time. The masterminds were great. I even got up and shared as a guest a couple of times, but because I felt so comfortable with this group of guys, and I signed up, and then I backed out. I backed out because of this dang toxic perseverance. I mean, I think a lot of people would look at me and go, hey, he's a success. But I still am searching for something, still am. As I'm working through this theory, I'm figuring out the steps I need to take to work through it and be vulnerable, live an epic life through honesty in a genuine way, show gratitude, put fear over here, stop blaming people, take responsibility for my actions, but don't bury myself and just say, I said to John the other night, there are many definitions and many ways to say this. The difference between shame and guilt, right? So I grew up, my mother's Jewish and my dad's Roman Catholic. Hello, guilt. But shame is an internal processing. If I have shame, I feel that I'm a bad person, that I am truly not worthy. Guilt is more external. Guilt says, I can make a mistake, learn from it, apologize for it, and learn from it. Shame says, I identify as that mistake. I cannot learn from it. I can apologize for it, but I'm not going to learn.
Hi, this is Melanie McCallan. Josh and I are just so grateful for the many investors who have already joined us at Accountable Equity. Accountable Equity is so much more than a capital group. It's really a community of accredited investors that want to learn and grow together. I just want to personally invite you, if you want to find out more about this type of investment and see if it's right for you and your family, please visit us at accountableequity.com.
Hey, it's Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. Enjoy.
So with what I wanted to ask you a little more about was, you're in the middle of preparing for a TED Talk on a lot of this topic.
I am.
And you're working on it, and it's called Toxic Perseverance. You know what I thought it meant when I first heard you tell me that, or when John mentioned it? I thought it meant the idea that you're striving for a goal, and it may be the wrong goal, but you have such great perseverance that it becomes toxic. That's what I thought we were going to be talking about. But how do you define toxic perseverance?
Yeah. Toxic perseverance is the action that robs someone of joy. You can still be a success. And success is an individual measurement. Everybody measures it differently. You can have success in life, but the toxic perseverance is toxic. I have internal self-defeating thoughts that undermine my ability to show gratitude, become vulnerable, and experience joy. It's an insidious cycle of mindset. So you're persevering through a toxic lens. That's the juxtaposition of the words. So we all think of toxicity as the narcissist, the gossiper, the negative guy who's the Debbie Downer in the room. Like that's toxic, right? What's the best way to stop being a toxic thinker? Get away from toxic people, right? We know what that looks like. But toxicity, internalizing toxicity, is things that are as insidious and seemingly small as worry, right? As blaming others, maybe not outwardly, but in your mind, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that again. Well, I mean, that may be true, but the external things of being a manipulative person or a negative person, those are the easy things that we see. But, how about thinking about your boundaries? You violate you have a set of boundaries, and you set up things with different people. But if you're an appeasing person or you're a highly agreeable person, that can't be good. How about jealousy? How about stubbornness? Like, these are things that when you add them all up, creates roadblocks to the concept of expressing and receiving gratitude, vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is the absolute antidote for toxicity. It just is. But we as men think of vulnerability as potentially a weakness rather than a strength, but it is a strength. I've just shared things with you guys that I really didn't want to share. It's hard to do that. But you know what? At the end of the day, this is how I have to work through it. And if my hearers can't be forgiving and accepting and just say, hey, good on you, Michael, you're doing a great job, then that's on them. That's not on me. But just saying that is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Worrying about what other people think. That's a huge one. Holding grudges with people. Get over yourself. Nobody's perfect. So how I'm expressing my healing is through this work. And I
Got it.
think my story isn't unique. The exact events might be unique, but it's
I
not
agree.
unique. We can all access some trauma that derailed us, perhaps.
Definitely.
And I think what the message I want to get out to people, the message that I'm telling myself on a daily basis as I've been reading and studying all day for this event with you guys, it actually feels good that I am absolutely not alone. I'll say this last thing about being with you gentlemen and being in the GoBundance fold. Being an entrepreneur means you're getting in the arena.
Yeah.
It's easy to go work for someone else. You got to wake up, you do your task, you go home. To start a business, to do what we do on a daily basis and get kicked in the teeth and get bloody is really hard. So when the group of men in this group get together, that is such a supportive weapon that we can use to grow from. It's not just about, well, John's a great guy and Josh did so well. Those are great things, but I can cry in front of John. I can go 100% vulnerable and he is not going to judge me. Those are the kind of people, if you want to heal from toxic perseverance, that you need to be around. You need to be around that supportive collective group of people who get it. So
that's going to be a compelling TED Talk. If you're going to get them to that arc where they're going to see healing in community or advancement in community. By the way, when you were saying the arena of business, an entrepreneur, that old story about the man in the arena, right? Is that where that rings true to most people?
And it comes from Roosevelt, right? Wasn't he famous? He had a famous quote about that. You know, the what is it? I actually wrote it down.
Would you mind sharing that? Because I heard it for the first time 15 years ago, and I probably should have it on the wall. It's so compelling.
I'm happy to. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer's deeds could have been better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred and bloodied and sweaty and filled with dust, who at the best and in the end knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails daringly and greatly.
Yeah, it's such a great quote. And actually, really that quote specifically was on the back of every football program at every home game when I played in high school.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was on the back. And it's just so impactful. One of my questions here is, in your work, have you read any of Dr. Joe Dispenza's books?
I have not yet.
Okay.
He's on my list. I've been deep into a couple people. Brene Brown is one. She's pretty fantastic. I have a board of people that are on my advisory board, and one of them is an insanely talented psychiatrist, and he is actively working with me through cultivating this stepwise approach of working through the toxic persevering concept that I've come up with. I mean, it's just another way of saying the same thing, I guess. I'm trying to make toxic perseverance, just that phrase, as something. When people heal, there's a million ways to do it. Well, not actually a million, but one way is to detach yourself from the behaviors. If I can say, this is a toxic persevering mindset, I can say, okay, that's the mindset. I don't have to internalize it and say, Michael's a toxic perseverer. If I keep saying that, then I'm going to keep rerunning in my mind all the negative stuff. Rather, I can look at toxic perseverance as a concept, not something that I have to identify as. I can identify with it, but I don't have to identify as it. And I think using it in terms of, the one metaphor I came up with is toxic perseverance is Advil. If you tear a ligament in your knee, you get pain and swelling. If you take Advil, the pain and swelling decreases. Toxic perseverance is the pill that prevents you, go with me, from receiving joy, from experiencing gratitude, from practicing vulnerability. Toxic perseverance is the mask. It's covering up the shame, the guilt, the fear. So let's just get rid of this toxicity. Let's get rid of the negative self-talk. Let's start believing that we're worthy. And for a lot of people, feeling worthy is a tough one. There's a lot of fake worthiness going on out there through the lens of narcissism. But even so, here's a toxic trait for you guys as high achievers. High achievement. That can be a toxic trait. Oh my gosh, how can I be so successful? That can really mess you up. If you're a hyper successful person and you don't enjoy and appreciate the fruits of your labor, that is a toxic trait. You absolutely have to appreciate it, mold it, keep it under control. You don't want to go, bonkers with it and become the raging narcissist. So even in a hyper successful venue, you could develop toxicity through that. And so the idea is to have that freedom to be vulnerable, show and receiving gratitude. By the way, research shows receiving gratitude is like 10 times more potent than giving it. Observing gratitude happening in front of you with two other people is more intoxicating than giving it. But you still should give it and practice it for your hearers. Knowing that, now you're motivated to give gratitude because you know the person that's receiving it is getting a real dopamine rush, which is especially if it's your family or your friends or your children. Yes, you should, figure out the good thing in the mistake and praise them for something. But when someone praises you, like I did you, John, the other night, by the way, I don't know, Josh, if you've met his son, Luke, what a great kid, right? And that's not by accident. And I hope you guys get to meet my kids and you're going to say, holy cow, these are amazing kids. But he was a great kid. This is a 21-year-old young man in a room full of adults, looking me in the eye, asking me questions about who I am and where I came from. 21-year-olds don't do that. They just don't. They are 21 and it's about me. So amazing. So it feels good to be praised and recognized for, as we know as dads, parenting ain't easy, man. And it doesn't stop.
Yeah. Michael, thank you so much for all the wisdom that you've given us today, man. The content is fantastic. I hope the listeners really go back and re-listen and take notes as I've filled up a whole piece of paper here as you were talking. How can our listeners connect with you?
I am so new. I don't have any social media besides LinkedIn, and I have an Instagram account. They can find me at Coach Doc Dad on my Instagram account. My nickname is Coach Doc. I earned that nickname from kids that I used to coach. Funny story. I was trying to get the kids to learn a certain thing in lacrosse, and they just couldn't do it. And I said, this is why I didn't become a pediatrician. And the kid standing right next to me looked at me. He goes, "You're a doctor?" Like, I guess, I don't know.
I like it.
But yeah, so I earned that nickname about 20 years ago.
That's great.
So that's my Instagram handle. I mean, I certainly my LinkedIn page would probably be the best way. I think it's under Michael Scarano, MD. And
it is. I just looked it up.
People can message me there.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Damn straight. We just got buddy. We got to the end of another great show. And everyone listening right now, you're the family and friends.
Fun.
Thanks for staying till the end.
That was so fun. And hey, hit the like, hit subscribe. We're here to serve you guys. That's why we're doing this show. Josh is not paying me. I'm doing this off of my quote unquote sweat equity because we want to make a difference in your life. And then that ripple effect will continue to touch the world.
Hey, amen, brother. Please check us out on capitalhacking.com, all the social media threads. And yes, I know you've probably already sent this episode to one of your best friends. Thank you. We love you. Just go right into your iPhone, hit the plus symbol. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.
Share.